Were you a teenager or young adult during the 2008 housing crash? If so, chances are you remember hearing about how families were losing their homes, or maybe your home was negatively impacted as well during that time, and how adjustable rate mortgages got a really bad reputation. But here's the truth: today's adjustable rate mortgages are very different. I like to call them short term fixed options, and they can actually be a really smart tool to help buyers lower their monthly payment and start building equity sooner. So if you've been on the fence about a short-term fixed option or an ARM, or just curious how it might be different today than it was back then, stick around. This video is for you. Let's dive into it. Here's how they work. Over the course of the loan term, an ARM gives you a period where that particular interest rate is fixed for a certain amount of time. It could be 3 years, 5 years, 7, or even 10 years. After that fixed period is over, then the interest rate can adjust based on the loan program. Sometimes it's 6 months and sometimes it's annually. Even though the interest rate can adjust after that fixed term has ended, there are still protections in place. Things like how often. So rather than monthly, it would be twice a year or once a year. There are also caps on how much the interest rate can increase with each adjustment. So really, it's like having a fixed loan for the time that you'll most likely use it, whether that's until you move, refinance, or upgrade your home. Now, it's understandable why potential homeowners today would be nervous about ARMs, especially if they don't know how they're different than compared to the early 2000s. There's multiple ways that reform had happened within the adjustable rate mortgage program, but I just want to highlight 3 for you today. The first one is that there's no longer a pick your payment or pick your pay. This feature allowed homeowners to choose which monthly payment was in their best interest in that month. And in a month, they had several options. One of them being the fully amortized payment, another one being just only paying the interest for that month, and then another one which had a negative amortization feature, which means they only paid partial interest that was due for that month, and then the interest that they didn't pay got added to the loan balance, and then month over month, that loan balance would increase over time. The program was geared more towards self-employed borrowers who had extremely fluctuating incomes and gave them a lot of flexibility to have a lower payment on those lower income months and then a full payment on those higher income months. For a lot of homeowners, it got to a point that that model was no longer sustainable. The second is that they did away with prepayment penalties. We do see them from time to time for investment properties in order to have better interest rates for some of those creative options. But when it comes to your primary home or a vacation or second home, prepay penalties are no longer allowed. How the prepayment penalty worked back then is you usually had a 2-year fixed or a 3-year fixed, and then you had a matching prepayment penalty. So if you refinanced or sold the home during that 2 or 3-year period, you would have to pay 6 months of interest as a penalty to the lender. And finally, another big change came with the underwriting guidelines in general. So we now have a guideline we need to meet called the ability to repay. And most of the loans today are based on full documentation being provided by the borrower that shows their full income picture, whether that looks like pay stubs and W-2s, or they're using tax returns for a self-employed borrower. We see the full picture and we have to meet debt to income guidelines as well, ensuring that the borrower does have the ability to repay the debt on a monthly basis. Even in our creative financing options, like our bank statement loans or even our investor loans, those still have a place. However, they also require a down payment. Back then, borrowers not only had the ability to do stated income for a 2-year or 3-year fixed option, but they also had the option of what was called an 80-20, meaning they had a first and a second. So essentially, no money down. Any home loan option now with a down payment of less than 10% does require full documentation, no matter what. Any of those outside the box solutions or those creative options will require at least 10% down. But as we start to explore those options further for buyers, they tend to find that the more you put down, the better the rate is. Since the housing crisis, we've seen most borrowers choose either a 30-year fixed or 15-year fixed. depending on what was in the best interest of their budget. So, why are ARMs now gaining in popularity? Well, it's because their interest rates are improving. And you might be wondering, well, why are their interest rates better now? In general, the fixed rate loans are based on the long term market, whereas the short term fixed rate loans are based on the short term market. And right now, the short term rates are improving faster than the long term rates. Lenders also know that affordability is challenging right now, and that making ARM pricing more competitive helps give buyers more options, especially when it's likely that they're going to be refinancing within the next 3 to 5 years. Now, depending on the loan program, you will see a different adjustment option available. So, with conventional loans, those are going to be based on the SOFR index, which is going to adjust every 6 months after the fixed rate period. But for government loans like FHA and VA, those ones are going to adjust every year after the fixed rate period has ended. So a short-term fixed option could be a great fit for someone who wants to lower their monthly payment today and make that home more affordable, especially if they expect to move or refinance within the next 3 to 5 years. It may not be a right fit if you plan on buying the home, never refinancing, and staying put for decades. Now, this option, like any other, is not a one size fits all. And you have to determine if it's going to be a good fit for you and your situation. But if you were nervous about how ARMs today could be like those of the early 2000s, now you know they're not. Today's short-term fixed options are structured very differently. And for the right buyer, they can be a smart strategy to get you into that home now. My name is Amber Jones. I'm a certified mortgage advisor, and I'm here to help inform you, empower you, and help you solve that financial obstacle you're currently facing on your home ownership journey. I would love an opportunity to have a 15-minute phone conversation with you and answer all your questions. All of my contact information is below, including a link where you can book that call with me today. I hope you found this information helpful. And if you did, I would love it if you liked the video, subscribed, and then shared it with a friend. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you again next time. Bye bye.